Hello everyone. Welcome back to Resident Evil 4. I might be a little bit grumpy this session, I'm sorry to say. This upcoming section is one of the hardest, well, maybe not hardest, but like one of the more intense parts of the game. And I played through basically all of it yesterday and ended up losing most of that footage. There was, I won't get into it, but I basically have to replay a section that wasn't very easy to do to begin with. It's not that it's hard, because again, I'm pretty well overburdened with ammo and stuff, and I know what to do. Like, if I were a new player who is new to this game and I had to replay that section, I'd probably be pretty devastated, because it's for new players especially, it is a particularly difficult part of the game. Historically, I've sort of thought of this upcoming section as being kind of like a gauntlet, because it's like one of the more there's a stretch in particular that has one of the longer sequences without a save that you'll have to deal with in a while. Once again, we get another letter sealed with a kiss by Ada. Perhaps you might have figured it out already, but you might be able to get out of here by using the waste disposal vent. I do actually like that little bit. Once again, we get the characterization with the sealed with a kiss. But the bigger thing is that for new players, they might have not thought that to move forward in the game, you have to go backwards and go back to the waste disposal section. But in any case, I'm not super happy about having to replay a tough, intense part of the game. And like, I don't mind too much. I might just have to, or I might be like speeding through this a little faster than I would have been otherwise. Probably more ammo than I need to use. Oh, dang. This is me getting impatient because I want to get through this quick. So this upcoming section, I think, is kind of like a lot of the best parts of the island and also a lot of the worst. So as I said, there's this really tough sequence of three-ish rooms. I guess it kind of depends on how you want to define them. That I think are like a really great challenge. Remember, I have the shotgun upgrade that lets me, like, I think there's like no damage fall off, or it's like uniform at all distances. Like, I believe it functionally works out such that anything shot by the shotgun now, like anything that gets hit by a shotgun pellet, functionally gets the full damage of what like a point blank shot would be. But so the sequence of 3 rooms is really, really tough for new players, but I do think it's like one of the best parts of the game in many regards, because it is such a test. It's a security switch for the door. Press it. Ow. That happened yesterday too. Ow. That also happened yesterday. And I think this is when I healed up that. I which pushes me basically up to 9. I think that broke his neck, because we got the action music stopped. But following that Gauntlet section is a not particularly fun on rails sequence, which I think is kind of sort of indicative of, I don't know, like kind of iffy game design or padding. Real quick, I'm going to check if I'm recording properly. Just a moment. Yes. Okay. It looks like it is indeed recording. I'm probably going to be paranoid about that, like this whole video, because I really don't want to have to do this section 3 times.
Looks like this is it.
Ugh, it stinks.
Sure does.
No way, Leon.
Way.
Are you out of your mind?
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
You... What is this?
Come on, let's go.
That's some other funny dialogue to me, because it's I don't know, it's a completely silly, I don't know, like not convincingly delivered the way, and then yeah, landed on your butt is like, feels like it conveys a sense of familiarity that like hasn't actually been communicated otherwise in the game. Also, the whole plan of like, let's jump down here, it'll be safe,
What is that thing?
is obviously not true. Like, we landed on a pile of medical waste, essentially. Now I gotta get the one on his back, which I think is up. There we go. They give you a lot of rifle ammo in this section, which is kind of nice. But yeah, for new players, being stuck in this room with an Iron Maiden is really scary. They do give you some explosive barrels, and you can like try to lock him out, but I think that he will automatically open the door. You can make Ashley hide, but I don't know. I don't think it's really that worth it, at least for me, knowing what I'm getting into. And similarly, we're about to get another one. So like right off the bat, this is the start of the Gauntlet, as I call it. And it's not easy. Once again, another Iron Maiden already. Nope. Oh, there's the fish animation I mentioned. Wiggles around. If I had gotten close, he'd have hopped up at us, and it's a scary animation. I might do that. There's a point later in the game where you're in this like prison, and you have to face just one of these guys. I might deliberately let that animation play out, the animation where you get bit. Like, immediately after saving, I'll let it go through just so we can like show that to the people who haven't seen it before. But yeah, this is okay, part 2 of the Gauntlet is... Oh, nice. Getting a crit on the cyborg is like, I feel like less common. I don't know why, but maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember critting them as much in the past. So I've been diving a little bit back into zombie media. I think I mentioned that in one of the other videos that like I kind of want to get back into this because I always really loved zombie movies, like way before the trend blew up. me and my friends would watch kind of bad zombie movies all the time. And good ones for that matter, because I do think that it's like a disproportionately
Look, there's a gate here.
good genre. And when I say good, I guess I mean... Oh yeah, this is a good moment for this. This is another really tough room for new players, I think, because I believe it has infinitely spawning enemies, or pretty close to infinitely spawning. Which is something that you won't necessarily know. The combination of there being lots of enemies. Ow. Lots of enemies. No. Okay, time to run. Lots of enemies and not having the information that they'll just keep spawning makes it a potentially really dangerous room, especially if you don't know that the controls are right there. That can be a real bad time for you. And particularly, like, if you don't have the thermal scope, or you don't feel confident with the thermal scope, or you don't feel confident with the rifle whatsoever, you can end up expending more ammo than you want on the Iron Maidens in the previous room. And now we have another room, now with Regenerators rather than Iron Maidens, who are a little bit better because they have fewer... Oh yeah, it looks like dog food or something. Yeah, we're in a kennel, Leon. And the game is nice enough to give you enough rifle ammo to take out a Regenerator, who is probably just outside the store. He sounds close.
Wait.
Get back here. Yeah. Nope. Come on. There we go. There we go. More ammo than I should have used, but the game is being pretty generous with it. I have a decent number of shots, too, going into the next section. But yeah, I remember playing this section for the first time. I remember really, like, finding this whole section kind of a nightmare. And I died in the room with the lava pit. I died, like, multiple times. On professional mode in particular, as memory serves, this is, like, particularly challenging section. Yeah, zombie media. I thought to myself I should get back into it just because I always loved watching zombie movies. And I feel like I have, like, deeper resources for the genre than the average person, because I was collecting zombie movie DVDs like all throughout the 2000s and even into the early 2010s. I would get, you know, I would sort of scour used media stores and pick up as much as I could. There's enough space for Ashley to get under there, was the text.
Leave it to me, Leon.
So I have a lot of them. I don't need to, like, rely on whatever is offered by streaming media services, which for the most part the options aren't good. So last night I watched Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2, which I talked about extensively in the past. It's the one that was sort of erroneously claiming to be a sort of sequel or prequel to Romero's Dawn of the Dead. I still am hitting the wrong buttons for that. Let's save over this one, which is from yesterday's playthrough. I'm moving at a good clip though. And I don't... Yes, I already saved.
Welcome.
I don't think he has anything new.
Got a selection of...
Yeah.
What are you selling? Is that
But Lucio
Thank
Fulci Zombie 2 sort of erroneously claimed to be...
Is that all, stranger? Is that all?
Like, it called itself Zombie 2, such as to imply that it was a sequel to Dawn of the Dead.
What are you
But, like,
buying?
its actual framing makes it appear as though it's more of a
What are you
prequel.
buying?
None of which is true, or, like...
Come back.
I'm pretty sure that
anytime.
those decisions were made after the fact. Like, I don't think it was ever actually...
Wait.
I don't think it ever started its development cycle in that way. I don't think I've ever actually failed that minigame, but I do have to wonder if we get electrocuted or something. That's a fun one. I actually like that movie a lot, though. Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2, aka Zombie, sometimes also called Zombie Flesh Eaters. It's really not a good film in most regards. And in particular, like, if you're into zombie movies, like, there's one brief zombie encounter right at the start of the film. And then you get this sort of gruesome thing where a zombie, like, stabs a woman in the eye, functionally, about 45 minutes in. There's briefly this thing with a zombie and shark fight underwater, also maybe about a half hour into the film. So, like, there's these little brief peaks of zombies, but honestly, there almost aren't any zombies in the film until, like, an hour in, and, like, then there's this final onslaught siege section. But the siege part is great, and the music is great, and the movie sort of, like, drips with the 70s in a lot of ways. Like, you have these, I don't know, very floppy hairstyles, and the kind of, like, cheesecake lady character who goes swimming topless at one point in the film. She has, like, this really cute, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe her haircut. Like, it's a little shaggier than, like, a pixie cut, but she has, like, short curly hair that's, like, a little longer than a pixie cut. Definitely not anything close to a bob, though. And then, like, the dude who owns the boat that takes them out to the island just looks like he would be on the cover of, like, a soft rock album. Like, he has this big bushy blonde beard. I don't know. The whole movie just is kind of a fun experience, and the zombies are, like, weird and gross. They're, like, caked with dirt, and the actors playing the zombies, for whatever reason, keep their eyes closed most of the time. I think it's supposed to, like, I think the dark makeup around their eyes is supposed to create the implication that, like, they have cavities where their eyes are supposed to be, but it doesn't actually work. It just looks like people who have dark makeup on their eyes and their eyes are closed. So they're sort of, like, slowly shambling forward, not just because they're zombies, but because they're, like, they've been instructed to close their eyes. But, well, it is time for the on rails section that I mentioned. Ahead of us, we have this huge construction vehicle. Who would you think could possibly pilot this construction vehicle, Ashley? We have this big thing right here. We gotta get to from point A to point B. What do we do? Who can handle this? Who can take care of this?
Leave it to me, Leon.
Thank you, Ashley. President's daughter, Ashley. Thank you for taking care of this huge, ridiculous tractor. So yeah, this section isn't necessarily hard or difficult. It's just kind of slow and boring. Like, it doesn't have the kind of like fun rapidity of the minecart ride, which is like very perilous. I think most of the enemies, at least the ones who are like running around, are one-hit kills. Like, almost regardless of what weapon you're using. So it's mostly just kind of an ammo dump, because you're not even really like maximizing the damage. Oh yeah. You have these where you have to get the truck to die. The thermal scope isn't great for the truck, so I keep switching to pistol for that reason. But yeah, as I said, it's I think one of the worst parts of the game, not because it's like horrible or anything. It is just an example of how like boring game design is not good. Like, something that is acceptable but boring is not an excuse. And now this part I gotta do as fast as possible, because when Ashley is in the pilot position of the truck or whatever, the enemies will just straight up kill her. They won't try to capture her. So, you kind of have to be quick. I actually had to redo this portion more than once, because one time I had forgotten the fact that they just will straight up kill her. So that was an issue, but the other thing was I accidentally shot her when trying to protect her from a guy. So I had to redo that part 3 times yesterday, which was really unfun, because like I said, I think this is not a great section. I think it's just slow, and it this kind of like design philosophy, where it's like supposed to be this like sort of cinematic action scene or whatever, is the kind of bad design that I think was a little over present in Resident Evil 5. Like, when people talk about what they hate in that game, they're very often talking about these really bad on-rail sections. Hi. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm just gonna... This is unnecessary, but... I also failed in this section once yesterday. I kept waiting for it to come behind us. And I got hit by it the first time I went through. So yeah, that's that section. It's I said, it's not horrible. It's not like it's unplayable or anything. It's just like they tried to make it this very cool, I don't know, convoy protect moment. But it's not. It's not good. It's not fun. It's not unplayable, but playable isn't like strong recommendation. Like a game naturally should be playable. And now we got a second part of the cat. Seeing these now, I remember that I sort of misquoted that I thought the element that combined with the cat was the same thing as went into the beer stein. So I think the beer stein is probably just something we can't complete, unfortunately. I just missed out on that. I'll probably save it and just sell it to the final, like our final guy, our final merchant.
Got a selection of good things on. What are you selling?
I don't think there's really anything to sell. I mean, I think we're done
Is
with
that
these, so I might as well.
Is that all? Thank you.
I'll just wait to sell this until we get to the last guy.
What are you
but
buying?
I think we're basically set up. I think the only gun we don't have fully upgraded is Broken Butterfly, which, yeah, we're waiting to get the 28 firepower.
Come back anytime.
And then whatever the final special is, I forget specifically. But just making sure. Once again, if there's any issues with this. Let's see what we can salvage. Cutscene.
I can feel them growing ever so strongly inside you.
Sadler!
Perhaps you can resist, but you cannot disobey. Now, come to me, Ashley.
Ashley! It's already begun.
End of chapter. We're at 834 on enemies killed. Okay. That's kind of a lot, but it's not a ton. So yeah, we have to go ahead. We will be stopping when we reach this, but we have some interesting stuff between us and that. So whenever I think about the kill count in this game, because you get the readout at the end, and I played it so many times, I've always been kind of aware of it. Our plan. Because of that agent, we lost Chief Mendez and Ramon. Nevertheless, everything will proceed according to plan. I must admit, however, the loss of my loyal men is a bit disheartening, but I will deal with it. Replacing that loss will not come easy. I must choose wisely, for the Plaga reflects the conscience of their host. If chosen poorly, they could betray me. I need men who will swear their allegiance to me. I've learned my lesson when Sarah betrayed me. I will not make the same mistake again. In this important hour, I cannot and will not have anyone stand in my way. Is there a treasure in here? For whatever reason, I thought there was. I thought there was like a thing. Even yesterday, I was thinking. I think I made the same observation, but Man, I lost whatever I was saying right as I ran up to that. Unfortunately. I apologize. Oh, yeah. Cutscene again.
What's the news on our friend, Leon?
He's not making it easy. The sample?
Sadler's got it. It seems he sniffed out our little game.
Perfect.
Just so we understand each other clearly, I don't trust you, nor does Wesker. If you try to do anything clever, I will kill you.
Is that so? You know, I met Wesker long before you.
We'll see soon enough if you did.
Yeah, we'll see.
So that's another cutscene that I think is weird and poorly timed. For one thing, it doesn't mask a loading screen. Like, that wasn't the point. But as with the previous cutscene that we had with Krauser's introduction, I feel like there's no particular reason why it had to be there. And I feel like it should have been somewhere earlier in the game. I don't really get the logic of doing this here. Hi. Nice. Nice moves, my dude. One of our Silent Hill bros. I always think of him as such because of the barbed wire and the glowing red eyes. Let's just make sure we get him in one. One. I'm actually low on pistol ammo. That's kind of weird. I have more rifle ammo right now than shotgun ammo. This is another room for the sake of saying that, I remember when I first played it, I always thought to myself this was like the very image of next gen or something. Like there was something about all the heat effects, the lighting effects, the particular effects in the air, the like level of detail on the wall textures here. All this stuff to me was like some kind of portent for what next gen games were supposed to look like. I also, I've mentioned in the past that I really love mundane objects in video games, and the folding chairs stacked up is especially good. It's like one of my favorite little pieces in this area, particularly because it's like, I don't necessarily know why these guys would need the folding chairs or need so many of them, I guess. I mean, we have one at this desk, but I don't know, it's just like a funny characterization to think of them as having like a closet full of folding chairs the same way that like my high school did. Once again, some nice mundane object sculpting. Like, it hasn't held up well in terms of HD resolution, but this like hanging cabinet of engineering tools is like something I don't think shows up anywhere else in the game except for here, but like it really adds a lot to, at least for me, to this environment, this boiler room. Like, this feels like a specific place. The fact that all the breaker boxes are here too, it just feels very specific, very real. Yeah, this room has always like stood out in my mind. And now it is time for something that always makes my hands sweat every single time I play it, even years later. Even having done this yesterday, in fact.
time, comrade.
Krauser.
I died in a crash 2 years ago. Is that what they told you?
You're the one who kidnapped Ashley.
You catch on quick, as expected. After all, you and I both know where we come from.
What do you want?
The sample Sadler developed, that's all.
Leave Ashley out of this!
Oh, I needed her to buy Sadler's trust in me. Like you, I'm American.
You got her involved just for that?
All for Umbrella's sake.
Umbrella?
Almost let it slip. Enough talk. Die, comrade!
Ada!
Well, if it isn't the bitch in the red dress.
Looks like we have the upper hand here.
You may be able to prolong your life, but it's not like you can escape your inevitable death, is it?
You knew each other?
More or less. Maybe it's about time you told me the reason why you're here.
Maybe some other time.
Enjoy the reunion with your old friend?
As a matter of fact, I did.
Wonderful. I wouldn't want my special guests on the island feeling unattended.
Guess I'm supposed to thank you, right?
Ah, I have an idea. Since you're here, why don't I introduce you to it? It should keep you busy.
Can't remember the name, huh? A senior moment, perhaps.
Oh. Enjoy the fun.
So, I have a lot of thoughts coming off of this. So, this is part of why I mentioned that I feel like the cutscene between Ada and Krauser right before the boiler room is kind of poorly placed. We don't really have any history explaining the concept that they're supposed to be here working together. So the idea of him not trusting her is not, like, it's new information, but, like, it's not replacing old information in any capacity. Like, it's the first information we're ever getting about their relationship, and then literally, like, one room later, she immediately betrays him right, like a minute after the cutscene where we saw him saying he didn't trust her. It feels like the stuff with Ada and Krauser should have been fleshed out differently. Like, we should have had more time with them, or, like, more of an explanation of what their presence was, and I don't really get it. I mentioned when we got the first Krauser cutscene during the castle that I didn't think that was very well timed either, just because we get it during the castle, but he doesn't show up until we're at the island, so that in some ways is early, but this in some ways feels late. So I don't really know what the resolution for it is narratively, other than that, like, it feels like they're maybe trying to pack too much into the story, which is weird because you wouldn't think of Resident Evil as, like, having a particularly, like, saturated, like, information dense plot. But you similarly get this thing where it's like the reveal of Krauser in that first cutscene is supposed to be some kind of, like, it seems very impressive, but he's never been in any game prior to this one, so it's not a reveal. So I don't get what it's supposed to be, and him saying things like, oh, people like us, or like implying that he has this past history with Leon, also doesn't totally click, just because we haven't seen, as of when this game came out at least, we hadn't seen Leon since Resident Evil 2 came out, which isn't a super long time. I think it would be something like 7 years, but we had no information about what Leon had been doing in that 7-year period. Like, we had no particular knowledge of, like, we know that he's assigned to taking care of the president's family by way of the opening cutscene, but that's it. Like, we don't know why he would know Krauser, other than assuming that maybe Krauser was also part of this family protection thing, but, like, that's not true. And I think that they eventually go on, as memory serves, they went on to flesh out the relationship a little bit with, I think it was in Dark Side Chronicles. I didn't play that one. I played Umbrella Chronicles, which was the first, like, Resident Evil light gun game on the Wii. Dark Side Chronicles, I believe, has an original section about Leon and Krauser on some operation together. At some point, I maybe want to play that, actually, because I don't know. It'd be nice to have some more about this, but moving forward, I also would love to talk about QuickTime events, and we actually have another one, sort of, right here, which we will get through, and then I'll talk about some of my feelings, because I actually think it's worth talking about. So, QuickTime events have been kind of much maligned as being sort of bad game design for quite some time now. But I think it's actually worth thinking about in the context of when this game came out, as well as God of War. So, this came out in 2005, right at the end of the PS2, Gamecube, original Xbox generation. The consoles were really showing their age, and QuickTime events were, in one sense, a convenient means of, like, making things look a little bit better. But I do think that they were innovative and experimental in their own sense. Here's a funny Easter egg, by the way. This game came out in 2005. I believe the original God of War also came out at that time. And these were two amazing games, like, generally regarded as, like, some of the best games of their generation, and they both featured QuickTime events. They both used them pretty sparingly, but they both did ultimately use them, and they became kind of a trope codifier, or, like, I feel like because the games looked so good for their era and were, in some regards, considered so advanced and forward-thinking in some of their design philosophies, that somehow or another QuickTime events got erroneously associated with forward-thinking game design, which they just aren't. Like, it's kind of the opposite, in fact. And, you know, as much as people hate them, and I think, like, in retrospect, people look back at this and perhaps more so look back at Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 and take issue with it, but, like, with 4, I think that there should be some amount of, I don't know. I don't think it totally excuses it, but I think you have to recognize that, like, when Resident Evil 4 did this stuff, it was...
Got some rare things. What are you buying?
It was innovative. It was something that people hadn't seen before.
Come back anytime.
And, they weren't doing it out of laziness. I think it really was... I think it was supposed to be more than what we think of them as being now. Like, it's easy to look back on them and hate it, but I don't know. I think it's worth acknowledging that it was sort of a risk in its own era, and also an experiment. So we will probably be wrapping up shortly. I have Luis's Memo 4, which is one of my favorite notes in the game, and I think is part of why I wish we had more Luis in the game. So let's start with that. Luis's Memo 4. I'll report my findings about the Plagas here. The Plagas have 3 distinct characteristics. 1. As mentioned previously, the Plagas have the ability to manipulate the behavioral patterns of their hosts. 2. The Plagas are social organisms. By this, I mean that instead of living individually, they live in perfect social harmony. It is believed that they have a collective intelligence. This type of behavior can be seen among insects, such as bees and ants. However, this kind of social behavior is rarely seen among parasitic organisms. Perhaps it was a learned behavior by the Plagas. I'm finding out if this has any relationship with their first characteristic. 3. The Plagas have exceptional adaptational skills. They are able to live off many kinds of organisms by creating a symbiotic environment quickly. This ability, when combined with their social behaviors, allows them to interact intelligently between hosts regardless of host organism. I'm ashamed to admit that my pure fascination with the Plagas in hindsight has blinded me to the true research objectives of the Los Illuminados. Even with the knowledge that Sadler was going to abuse the results of these experiments, I could not pull myself away from my research. As a result, I'm just as responsible for this whole mess as he is. I see now that I was wrong. But can I stop their evil plans alone? I think that makes Luis like a really interesting character, like a much more interesting character than most in Resident Evil. The fact that he not only feels guilt for what he did, but the fact that he was more responsible and sees himself as responsible in a way that you just generally don't see in these games. It's kind of interesting. I think it's good. But anyway, we upgraded Broken Butterfly to its highest damage. We don't yet have access to its like ultimate ability yet, but I'm happy that we have quite a bit of ammo for it. We have 21 shots currently, and we have tons and tons of stuff. We are about to go into what is thought by many to be one of the weaker boss battles of the game, just because this guy is a bullet sponge. But with 21 shots at 28 damage, I don't think we need to use a rocket launcher on him, as I had previously been considering. Because after him, we honestly... I guess we have some stuff left to do. Not a ton, but we'll have this whole section is boss battle. I forget what this room is. That might just be some generic Ganados. This is... I'm trying to think. We're gonna have a boss battle with Krauser, which might be this, if memory serves. There's this like run and gun military big action scene section, which is this. One little final room, I believe, and then final boss battle. I think that's all we have left. the series has gone longer than I expected it to. Like, I originally thought it was only going to be like 15 episodes, but I guess I keep underestimating what it's going to be. It might end up being more like 20, because I think this is maybe episode 17, something like that. Session 17, I should say. I don't know. We'll see where it goes, but you know, I'm glad that going back through this area actually went pretty smoothly. And it wasn't as aggravating or painful as I thought it was going to be, at least. So, this has been fun, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.